microphone?
No.
Okay. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order, the Animal Control Ad Hoc Committee meeting. And would anyone like to give our invocation? Any volunteers?
I'll be glad to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's bow our heads. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we want to take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you for all that you provide and all you do for us, Lord. We pray that you be with us tonight as we conduct the county business, Lord. Trying to identify things we need to work on, maybe things to do better, identify things we are doing well, Lord. We just pray that you'll be with us and guide us and direct us in these endeavors. Lord, we pray for this country. We pray for our military, Lord. These are all uncertain times, but we know that you are in control and that you have the power to do whatever is needed. And we rely upon your strength, your guidance, and your wisdom, Lord. We thank you for all these things. In Jesus Christ's name, we pray always. Amen.
Amen. And then, if you guys had time to look over the agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Got a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. So, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All those opposed? All right. Recognition of the public. So, I wanted to say something. Last time I was not probably clear on this, and we had a room full of people that I would venture to say a lot of them had never been to a meeting before, and it may have come off rude that I did not allow you to speak during certain times in the meeting. I just wanted to explain, this is the citizens' time to speak during the meeting. They can say whatever they want about things that we're going to talk about on this agenda, and then after those comments are made, we're going to discuss that amongst ourselves and try to move the meeting along and make suggestions to the animal control on what we go over. So we can't have comments. From time to time, we may suspend the rules to hear from an expert or something like that, that we have to vote to do that, to suspend the rules. It's once you're done talking in public comment, it's over. So that's just our standing rules as a commission. I can't break those rules. So I wanted that to be clear to everybody. With that being said, Kathy Arlen is first one up, and you got 5 minutes. Get her, make sure she's on the camera so she's
Right there at the end of the table will be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
The end of the table.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Arlen. I am resident of Gallatin, 231 Chipaway Drive in Gallatin. Been a resident here for about 4 years and have been involved in animal rescue throughout the county, different organizations since I've been here. My presentation tonight was going to be very highly visual, so I guess we can't do that, unfortunately, so we might just save some of that today. So I will I'm gonna tap dance as best as I can with what I've got. So I want to start with a quote from, guys may know I work for Toyota Motor Corporation, and this is a quote from one of our founding fathers, Taiichi Ono, and his quote is, "Progress cannot be generated when we are satisfied with existing situations." And I think that is the situation that we have with animal control. And today I got to do another thing within Toyota values, which is called Genchi Genbutsu, meaning go look, go see in Japanese. I went to animal control today. I found it awkward, I'll be honest with you.
Could you address the chair also, please? 'Cause
I'm
having
sorry.
trouble hearing
I'm
you.
sorry.
But that's the correct protocol anyway. Just address the chair
Sure.
and speak loud enough that they can hear you, but turn towards me because that's the most important.
Sure.
microphones right
So today I got to visit animal control, and it's the first time I've been. I did not want to go because I find it to be a depressing place, any place that is a kill shelter. I went at about 12:30 during my lunch hour. The first thing that I got was a doorbell, and after a little while after that set off all the dogs, which made me nervous. I was asked to submit a copy of my ID. I've never had that before in any municipal shelter, and I don't know why that is, but okay, did that. Someone came to me, told me we have cats, we have dogs. What was I looking for? I said I wasn't really sure, just wanted to take a look around. So I first went to the cat room, very nice. woman there assisted me. The cat rooms were fairly clean. One thing she showed me was a kitten, which was beautiful. She told me its sibling was still in the back because it was kind of feral. And to me, that's a no-go, because any type of kitten that is bonded with another kitten should be with that kitten. So if it's scared to death now, it's really scared. And I don't like sending around the feral moniker, because there's feral and they're scared to death. Most cats that are in a shelter situation are just plain scared to death. So I was upset, that had happened. I didn't say anything, of course. It wasn't her fault. But she was very nice. But when I did walk in, I will say there was somebody sitting on top of the washer or dryer in the laundry room, and as soon as they saw me, they hopped down. So that was a little weird. And then I went out to see the dogs. I was escorted, if you will, by my adoption counselor, who was a prison inmate in a jumpsuit. I found that very awkward as a citizen going in to look at dogs. The dogs, of course, were completely raucous, loud. When I went in, there was urine, there was feces. It smelled terrible, and nobody was doing anything about it. So these poor dogs are stuck in their own urine and feces in the middle of the day. And again, if I'm a person that's coming in as a citizen, maybe I have my kids with me to look at a dog. I don't think that is a proper environment to be escorted by somebody in a prison jumpsuit. I'm sorry, I just don't. I was told I could not go to the back due to non-vaccinated animals and cross-contamination. I don't know I don't need a vaccine, so I think that that's a crazy reason to not let anybody see the back, whatever that is. I don't know if dogs are outside, but there was an entire row of cages that were empty. Are there dogs in the back that should be in the front? I found the thing very awkward, very not welcoming. I guess I will put it that way, and not to denigrate anybody, but I've seen good, and that was not good. One of the things we talked about last time was sort of communication and outreach. And again, what I wanted to show was a live look at Pet Finder. We finally have got some dogs on Pet Finder that have been there about a month. I guess they're dogs. We don't know because there are no pictures. And I bet you there are people in this room right now that get onto Pet Finder themselves and post animals. It's not that hard. So if you get them up on Pet Finder and you have no pictures, it really doesn't do you any good. I've been told there's a pet food pantry. We get calls every day for pet food. It's a safe place for animals. I don't know that that is actually the case. Is there a pet food pantry? Is there not? I think we need to work on humane education. Reading books with a burro is nice, but that is not humane education. Might be considered literacy education. That is not humane education. We need to get very clear on what that is. We don't have any off-site shelter events. I've heard at Halloween the staff went out, but without any animals, and dressed up like Scooby-Doo and closed the shelter. I want to talk about the use of the budget, and this was again going to be something I could have shown you, but I can't now. There's a total budget in 2023-24 of $611,000 and change. Of that, salaries, benefits, insurance, etc., people stuff is almost $470,000 of it. That's 76.7% of the budget. Animal food and supplies is $33,500. The pedigree contract gives most of the food, so that's 5.5% of the budget that goes to care for animals. The veterinarian is $67,000, and I think it is plus his charging of retail prices, basically, for vaccinations, which should not be the case. A full-time vet should be hired, not leased out, because they'd be working on their own bottom line, which they should be a hired person. Travel and gasoline, $25,000. That added up, if I went with the $19,000 for gas, of 5,464 road miles. I don't think that actually happened. One of the things that I was going to show you guys was the social media presence. If you look at Facebook, the first thing you see is a picture of the shelter with a rainbow. I think everybody in this room knows what a rainbow means to anybody in the animal community. It's the rainbow bridge. It means death. I'm sorry, bad marketing. There are QR codes on there that lead to almost nowhere with animals that are basically probably old and likely dead. And I just want us to be better. Please check out McCamey Animal Center. See their website. I wanted to show you that difference because we don't even have a website. We have a poorly monitored Facebook page. Not blaming anybody, I'm just saying that's what the fact is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, I know you tried to show something last week too. We had issues in there, so you have like 4 or something like that. Next time, give us a heads up and we'll try to make sure that we either swap with the people that are in there.
I'll have
or we
that
get
next time, I
something
promise.
ready. Yeah, give us a heads up.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to see it.
Can I ask this to stand first? Can she?
Yeah. If it's a item on the agenda,
It's
can
not
we handle
this.
it at the agenda, or is it a question you have
It's a
first?
question for this, can I just ask
Sure,
directly?
I'd
Okay.
entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
To ask a question.
Anybody want to suspend the rules, give a motion?
Can I make a motion to
Yeah.
suspend, move just to ask a question?
Yeah, you say, I make a motion to
I make a
suspend the
motion to
rules.
suspend the rules.
Do we have a
ask
second?
question. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No,
Okay, we got 1 no.
Is there,
Ayes have it, go ahead.
is there any way that, because you've done this before with a pack, like, can you create that and then we can have
Yeah, I can
access
send,
to
I
that
can
as
send the
well?
whole thing to you,
That would be
absolutely.
wonderful.
So like I said, I had to tack a little bit further. If anybody wants to see the video please see me afterwards.
Thank you,
you.
that'll work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Report of the chair. I'd just like to report to the committee and to the public that keep in mind, this is just an advisory committee. We have no power to make anybody change because it's run by a duly elected officer with the sheriff's department running it. So we're here to make suggestions. And I just want to encourage the public and our board that Chief Deputy Craddock has called me a couple times since our last meeting, and they are making moves towards changes and trying to do things differently. I know that Lieutenant Matthews takes notes and brings them back to the Sheriff's Department, to the Animal Control, and they try to make some tweaks on things. There's some things in motion that aren't ready to come before the board yet, and I think they probably still need some work once they get to the board, but they are listening. So there's some action going. I don't want everybody to think this is falling on deaf ears. So continue what you're doing, continue to support the committee, and stay engaged. So that's all I got for the report of the chair. For old business, we still have on here discussion of spay and neuter procedure. And do you have some information that, okay, that's one of the things that Chief Craddock told me possibly would be coming forward, so
Yes.
I'll let you go ahead and start.
okay, got an update on that, and also fall into our, kind of our next discussion under the same block. Currently, the adoption fee for a dog who has all of its vaccinations, who is spayed or neutered, is $100.
Now, is that has all those fees that
That's-
you all have done at Animal
That's
Control?
correct. They are spayed or neutered or have their vaccinations. Those animals that go out of the shelter is a $100 adoption fee. For the animals who have just have their vaccinations but has not been spayed or neutered yet, the cost of that adoption is $55. And I'll go down to the next one. Cats that have been spayed and neutered and have all the vaccinations, it's a animal adoption fee of $70. Again, same as dogs, if they just have their vaccinations and they do not have their been spayed or neutered, then it's $55. That is what's currently going on. And then, like I said, the chief asked me to update the committee in this and further in reference to our spade and neuter, just to let you know. It says today, which this is back on February 7th that this was given to me, but Captain Hurst and I, being Eric Craddock, met with Sarah from Sumner Spade and Neuter last week. I dropped by Safe Place for Animals also and had a great visit. We opened the lines of communication and openly discussed concerns. It is our hope that the dialogue will continue and will continue to grow and improve. We're currently looking at changing our cleaning solutions to Trek Troll through Romaine Company. This would come with an automatic dose dispenser and would automatically dilute the solutions to ensure we're cleaning and disinfecting at the proper rate. This
Lieutenant Matthews, can I ask you a question? Is that to get away from the bleach? Is that what that's for?
Yes, and there's a halt was another chemical that we was using that is done in veterinary hospitals before this. And undoubtedly, after talking with, I don't know if this came from Spade and Neuter or Spa, this other chemical or a way to do it is Tectrol that comes with the automatic dispenser is the recommended use now. So they've started using, or that's where they're going over to. They are looking at prices for new and additional, and like I said, this all kinds of runs together, but they're looking for prices for new and additional outdoor dog runs to allow the dogs to have outdoor recreations and more frequently be outside. I reached out to Team Shelter USA about coming and doing an independent assessment of the facility. I hope that we will learn the areas where we can continue to improve and have guidance to implement measures to ensure we're applying best practices. Once I get more information on the cost/process for this assessment, then the information will be passed along. He said, I've spoken with Commissioner Jones about the current vet situation. I've come up with two options. Number one is to contract with a vet to utilize the old Sumner Spade and Neuter Clinic that is there at Animal Control in the building. The vet would be dedicated to 16 to 20 hours per week to our facility. Daily intake checks, vaccinations, routine medical care will be done Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 1000 hours. That's 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 in the morning. Spay, neuter, and other surgeries will be completed on Mondays from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. The vet would be able to utilize the other times to run a private practice from the facility. That was one thing. The second thing is to add a full-time vet to our staff. This would require a new salary line. In this instance, the vet would become a de facto administrator for the shelter. All medical decisions would be made by the vet. All law enforcement decisions would be made by law enforcement. And he said, just wanted to get these thoughts out to everyone to kind of let you know what progress or way they're headed. Also, speaking with Sumner Spade and Neuter Alliance, that's Miss Sarah. The conversation with Miss Sarah in reference to spade and neuters was that until we're able to get to where every animal can be spayed or neutered out of the shelter, hopefully getting a vet or these other things we've said, they are entertaining the talks with her that if there's an animal that's vaccination only coming out of the shelter, that they would also receive a voucher for spade or neuter. This would be a voucher to Sumner Spade and Neuter Alliance because so far they are the cheapest in the area, and they've done wonders here in the county. The person who has adopted an animal will take that voucher over to Sumner Spade and Neuter Alliance, make the appointment for this spade and neuter. After this spade and neuter is be done, then Miss Sarah would monthly at the end of the month or every 2 weeks is pending to what the final decision is made. We'll turn those vouchers back into us, and then we would pay her based on the vouchers that she had done that month for the spade and neuters.
Lieutenant Matthews, it's my understanding that those fees for the adoptions are kind of in flux based on that they could possibly will probably change to a higher amount if those vouchers go into effect and y'all are working.
Could be, but that's where we're at right now. If indeed that they in these discussions with Miss Sarah and Sumner Spade and Neuter Alliance, that's reference to the spade or neuters. If she decides at one point until we can get more personnel as far as on the vet side on board, if she would like to also do the vaccinations as we've done before, then all that would be fall within that adoption fee, unless like everything else does, goes up from time to time. And if those items have gone up in cost, then of course the cost for adoption will be adjusted from there. But those are the steps so far that the chief wanted me to relay to this committee that's being done. And like I said, personally, I'm excited about trying to get a full-time vet. It's quite expensive. Like I said, most of the time you're looking at about $120,000 a year. And then on top of that, once you get all that and the benefits in place, you will still have to find a vet willing to do so. And I think other committee members could talk to that as to that can be a tough thing to do.
Sure.
But there's the areas that we're trying to continue to work for so far.
Thank you. So that addresses line 7A. I'll want the committee now to ask questions based on what we've just heard or any other things that go on. Go ahead, Diane.
First of all, I appreciate that the Sheriff's Department is willing to work.
Please speak up just so the public can
Yeah.
hear. We're not microphones.
My
we're
husband
all
says I
talking this
mumble all
way.
the time.
No, just, thank you.
I appreciate that the Sheriff's Department, you know, is willing to step up and work with us and try to make things better. But, you know, again, I've been without a vet for over a year. I'm working on some things. So it's going to take a while to get a veterinarian. So in that meantime, I still don't understand, I mean, why you don't have staff that is doing the vaccines and the intake. You know, you all have had animal control for almost 15 years, and we're still talking about proper protocol. And, you know, it's real simple, you know, just vaccinate intake. And again, if they're covered in fleas and ticks, give them some, you know, clean that animal up and get it ready to go out on the floor. So I don't understand why, you know, that isn't, and the veterinarian that comes, and I read over his job description, and it did say on there he's supposed to come at least 1 to 2 times a week. He's supposed to vaccinate. He's supposed to take care. You know, it listed a whole lot of things that he's not doing. So, could we stop wasting that money? It's like $2,100 a month, and maybe even hire a vet tech. You know, just to come in and do the vaccines. If your staff doesn't have time, if the front desk doesn't have time, can we, at least in the interim, until we can?
I want to address something real quick. So as you're suggesting that, he's writing down notes. And just for the committee and just so the public knows, try to address all comments to the chair. Don't make them in the form of a question to another member. This is a unique situation that he may be able to answer some of them, but a lot of them, I know you're saying, why can't you? He is a representative of the animal control, but you're basically asking the committee, is this something we want to propose to them? So if you direct it to me, it'll go that way in the form of a suggestion back to them, and that way we won't have to have a conversation between everything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because otherwise now he's got to answer everything you just said. But if you did it in the form of a suggestion, we could piggyback off of that and hone it in and make it a really good suggestion that he could just take back. Does that make sense? Keep
I
going.
got you.
Keep going. I don't mean to interrupt you.
I got it.
If you got something else, keep going. If you got something else. If not, I'm gonna move on to Dawn.
Okay, well, like I said, just, you know, in the interim until there is a vet, so we can get rid of disease. And that's one of the biggest reasons why Sarah does not want the animals at Spaniard, because they were sick, upper respiratory, dehydrated. So if we can, you know, then she'd be willing to take some, like you say, if they're already vaccinated. So that's my suggestion.
All right, Donna.
First of all, I want to thank you for having me on this committee, and thank you for the public that's here this evening. I have also done a few things, and I want to say I'm very elated that because today I wound up reaching out to the team shelter myself through their website. I've been really blessed to speak with people like Lisa Robinson, who is fabulous and giving me some insights on best practices. So that particular entity, I believe, is also working with Nashville as well to identify, because they know exactly what they're doing and they know how to do best practices, and it's great to have somebody externally to find out exactly where are the missing components to create a best practice environment that's a win-win for the public, the animals, and et cetera. So kudos to you guys for doing that too. In the interim, I've been speaking to other counties, trying to gather some intelligence with regard to what they're doing and how they proceed. And this is where policy and procedure is going to be very, very helpful as we explore modeling. Are the right people that understand what they're doing in that purview, in that lane, the right people there? It may require some individuals to shift into different arenas, right?
Yeah,
So there's that too.
I'll call point of order on you, not to be rude.
Okay.
But just because it's your first meeting, let's try to stick it just with spay and neuter procedure first.
Okay,
And then we'll move into the animal intake.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It just keeps it more constructive because we can knock one item out
Okay.
totally.
I thought that this was
Or
a
tonight.
point where I had to.
No,
okay.
no, just let's keep it with spay and
But
neuter
yeah,
first.
please bear with me as I get my bearings.
No, of course,
But I
and
thank
that's
you.
why I'm saying I'm not being
Yeah.
rude to you. I just want to make sure you understand how we're going through the agenda to make it as concise as possible.
What I'd
But-
like to ask with regard, if I'll stay on topic on spay and neuter
Sure,
only.
yes.
Like when I see procedures and protocols, I always often see things that are written documentation internally, how that works. Do we have any written documentation on protocols? Who is, like, it's like, almost, I would say, who does what? That's their purview, because I'm trying to wrap my head around all those things. What are the procedures and protocols that come into play with spay and neuter? Is it possible that we could have any and all animals that are adopted out to be spayed and neutered? That would be the big question, because what I'm finding, and all of the data point to that, a robust spay and neuter program will do the most important thing. It's not, because there's not one magic bullet, but it's a big one. It will alleviate the intakes. We're trying to reduce the number of animals even coming to shelter. So now you have to do a preventative task. And I guess I understand COVID, there's going to be this uptick. Nashville Humane is also struggling with that too. Is there a way that we could have any and all animals adopted out, spayed and neutered? Because people may get a voucher, but they are busy with their lives. You know, they got all these things to do. The human has a lot to do in this day and age. And that dog may never get spayed and neutered. Even if they have a voucher, it can go in their little drawer and it never gets done. So you always have now an unneutered animal that could get out and then create more unwanted animals. So that would be, because when I did reach out to Robertson County Paws, which I want to go take a look at them too, they have vaccinations and spay and neuter, and they actually don't, they try to alleviate all barriers because they get them in to get them out. So they have a very robust spay and neuter program, which has really helped and has really made extreme strides. So with that, can we explore any and all animals getting spayed and neutered? I don't know the budgets. I'm going to look into costs and things of that nature. But that would be my biggest thing to speak on today.
All right, thank you. So the question and some feedback that I have for you is, the feedback I'm hearing from the public is nobody's going to be satisfied until we spay and neuter every animal coming out of there for adoptions. I like the idea that I read the paper that you were reading off of. It was like a rough draft, I think, of the way that they wanted to go for adoption in the future. And I suggested, and Deputy Chief Craddock put on there, that they have the ability, or the animal control can come back and reclaim that pet at any time if they do not get spayed or neutered with that voucher program. I like having that in there. I hope that is something that will be enforced if that's the route they go. However, I'd like it to where they don't get released without being spayed and neutered, because I don't see how you could possibly enforce that all the time. I just see, for example, somebody sees a really nice looking breed of dog that's a purebred dog and go in there, they'll forego that adoption fee to start a puppy mill, you know, and we don't want that. Something else that was brought to my attention last month that I was unaware of was this tipped-eared cat program that I think the lady's name was Donna. First time I'd ever heard of it. I don't know how familiar the animal control is with that, but that is a really robust program that is active and everything. I hope that the animal control officers realize that, because that is an animal that doesn't need to be brought in also. But it brings up a question of policy on if you do ignore that animal, but it's climbing up and down on Mr. Jones's car every night, scratching it all up, that cat, if it doesn't have an owner, may have to go. So there needs to be a policy made to address those tipped-eared cats. We either recognize the program, we don't, or we recognize it in some kind of form or way. So I would encourage whoever is in charge of that program to work with animal control on that to see if they can come up with an agreement on that.
And maybe also a fact that we don't have enough education. Sorry.
I'm not gonna say it. Don't make me say it again.
Point of order.
No, this is a lot more informal of a committee, but
Okay.
you'll learn how things go, and it's fun. I'm have fun with you though anytime. Wait, lost my train of thought now. So I'll come back to it, but go ahead. Go ahead.
In fact, I saw the spay and neuter very briefly, Sarah Lovely. They do have a little, it's a nice little flower that has a tip ear, that they've been spayed. A lot of the times it's an educational, and there might be something to be said about a public awareness initiative, because you can do some of these things in a silo, but the public may not understand, well, what's a tip ear look like? What does that mean? There may be something to be said about the educational part, that has been a spayed and neutered cat, but the public doesn't really understand or know that because they have no idea what to look for. So that may help alleviate, because some people think, oh, here's a cat, it lost its, I'm going to turn it in and it's not doing anything wrong, but they didn't realize it had a tip that was missing and just to leave it alone because it's part of a colony.
That's a good point. It echoes my point that whoever's in charge of that program needs to do a little bit of work with animal control to get them to recognize it, if they can, come up with a policy on how to handle it, but also put a program out there to educate the public on it, either on their own website, on a county website, on Animal Control's website, introduce them to the tipped-eared cat program, if you will, or whatever. But I'm not going to add one more thing onto Animal Control for them to have to do, but
Correct.
this is something to educate those people with. I remember my point. If you give me 1 second, I'll come back to it. I see you're in the queue. About the spay and neuter process with Sumner Spay and Neuter with Sarah. I'm encouraged that they're willing, it looks like they're willing to build a relationship back with animal control. Again, that they're progressing towards that. I still want to push for some kind of a policy or contract type of a deal with somebody, because that is only going to be as good as the relationship. If the relationship ever sours for any reason, new sheriff gets elected, Sarah goes out of business and somebody else comes along, in government, we're supposed to do things that the public can't do, won't do, or shouldn't do. This is one of those things where maintaining that relationship, if left to people, things can fall through the cracks. We got to come up with something a little more solid that'll stand the test of time. So I like that, but it seems like a temporary thing until we can get some kind of a contract or policy for animal control. And so the full-time vet seems more appealing. And I understand that's, right now we're spending about $65,000 a year for that. So we would double that, it sounds like, to get a full-time vet. And that's something worth considering. But just keep that in mind as we go forward. Anybody has anything to talk about that'll piggyback on that, that's fine. Go ahead, Diane, and then we'll move on to the next item.
Well, I just wanted to say about the tipped ear cats. I'm sure the sheriff's department is well aware of, you know they know about that program, but I don't want cats to not be picked up if they are in distress or sick. Even those tipped ear cats, they do come. I mean, I've taken in cats that are unhealthy and sick, and for them, because they got a tipped ear, not to be picked up, I think is important that the sheriff's department still picks up the cats, even though they are tipped ears. So, but I know they're aware of that program.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to animal intake policy and procedure. I'm not in the queue on that one. You guys might want to say something on that, or we can move on. If the
Just real quick.
generalization is handled, then that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick on reference those policies and for Ms. Chairman, for our new representative that's here. We did give, on the prior meetings, descriptions of, job descriptions of the employees, what they're supposed to do, the examples of paperwork in the system as they come through from point A to point B. I may have a package that I can get
That'd be great.
to get that to Ms. Donna, Mr. Chairman. And on the other things in reference to that, just to show you that the Sumner County Sheriff's Office has been continued working, and we've been working on revisions of policies 2 to 3 years now as far as the whole Sheriff's Office. I have in my hand, as you can see, it's pretty thick, revisions to the general policies of the whole Sheriff's Office that was issued on February 1st, and they are to take effect on March 1st of 2024.
Oh, wow.
This is not even animal control. This here is just the regular policies that they've been working on for 2 to 3 years. They have also got the policies for animal control. I talked with, again, Chief Deputy Craddock about that because the request was made that we could bring it and make it available to this committee. So I reminded him that I was asked for that for the presentment, and he replied that he does have a draft policy that is still being revised. There are changes that will occur to it, especially based on how we proceed with the vet and what directions that we go. As soon as those final revisions are made, and then we'll be able to make that policy available, that will do the same as this one. As of March 1st, this is a policy that the Sheriff's Office is working off of, and so hopefully by that time he will also have the new policies, all the revisions and things to be able to present to the committee.
So correct me if I'm wrong, also, I believe in talking with the group where he's going to get the study down on best practices and procedures.
Correct.
Did he say that there's going to be possibly some policy changes based on that?
Almost definitely,
And
yes.
did he have a timeline for that yet? I know he's got a call out to him.
Right, he's got a call out to him, and he said, and again, on his letter, that as soon as he gets that information back,
It's a
reference
cost
any
involved.
cost and stuff like that he will report that. But again, I think, Mr. Chairman, that one of the factors that was brought up was they would like an independent
Right.
to come in. So Chief listened to that, Sheriff listened to that, and it's always good to get an unbiased eye to come in, someone that's not connected to us, someone's not connected to, say, another organization, but somebody that does it for a living, they know the ins and outs of what it's supposed to do. After that assessment is made, then from there, based on their recommendations, I'm sure the sheriff will look at that and make whatever adjustments that may be needed.
And he also said that possibly it may be something they look at doing once every 4 years, a review of or something like that. Because I honestly think that we got to this point just from following possible best practices from yesteryear. If you don't keep updating, times change, and you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm encouraged to see that they're looking forward to that. And if you will, could you put in a request from him to let us know, let the community know, email us when that timeline is, and if it's something coming up for, by next month, we can possibly put it on the agenda to discuss or something like that. And which reminds me, Ms. DeSopo, if you will, make sure you forward your email to Jessica probably, to make sure that we have all the committee members on the email chain for animal control. And Jessica, if you will, make sure Diane's on there.
We got her.
Okay, because I know that was missed one
I
time.
haven't been getting the agenda.
She didn't get the last one. So
I haven't got it.
we just need to check the,
I got this one.
we need to check the spelling or whatever, just make sure
Must be a
that y'all.
Mr. Chairman, and I will concur with your comments that you made there as far as best practices. Best practices do change
Yes.
from time to
Yep.
time. A better way of doing something or an older way that seems to work the best. And depending who you talk to, which organization that you talk to, they have things that they do that they like and they don't like. It works for them. But another organization may not think that that is a way that you should do it. But all those things is taken into consideration to try to find out what is the best practices that are working here today. And real quick on the tipped ear and the cats, the sheriff's office is very aware of that program. We've tried to educate the community on those and give the information out. What we receive a lot of the times is, I don't care if it's a tipped ear cat or whatever, it's doing, like I said, it's on my car, it's in my mulch, it's doing this. I don't want it on my property and I want it gone. Then our job responsibility to our citizens that says that is to pick the animal up and go from there. And that's where we're at on that. But we are very well sheriff's aware. Ms. Mock Mahand was a big advocate. And there are, just put this out real quick, there are some shelters that don't even take cats in here. And it's a wide trend across the whole United States. At this particular point in time, that's not where the sheriff's office is because the sheriff believes in servicing the community and the needs. And there's more that needs to be ventured out and looked at in that aspect. And again, we're going back to best practices and procedures as we continue on. But just want to make that point.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sure. With that being said, we'll go on to new business. So the veterinary contract, which was discussed a little bit on here, we touched on it a little bit. Did anybody in the committee hear some things that we could build upon, have some comments on things they don't like about what we heard, some direction that Lieutenant can take back to animal control to possibly bounce off of Chief Deputy Craddock, who had their hand up first.
Well,
Diane, go ahead.
I think probably, to lease that building out to them is a mistake, because again, it'll be the same situation you have here. They're gonna be more concerned about their own practice, and the animal control animals will fall by the wayside. I think it would be best if you could hire your own veterinarian. Easier said than done, I know, but I think that would be the better option than trying to lease that out to somebody, because you're not going to be the top priority.
Do you think that if you leased it with, even that, I will still go back to what I said, without a policy in place and a contract on holding that person accountable, not just the sheriff's department to them, or the animal control to them, and them to the animal control, but having some sort of oversight in the fact that if either one of them doesn't hold up their end, they could report it to somebody to say, help me, because so-and-so is not listening. Whichever way it goes, they need to have the ability to have recourse on that veterinarian. Veterinarian needs to have the ability to say, hey, best practices and procedures have changed, and I'm trying to implement it, and they're not available to listen to, or something. We don't know what the future holds and who's going to be in charge of those things. But so if you could put something in place, are you not seeing that would be possible?
Look what you've got now. I mean, you've got a written somewhere. You've got a written, detailed what this veterinarian is responsible for, and none of it's happening. I mean, somewhere here I have it. You know, it's not happening. So again,
I wouldn't say that's not happening. It's not happening to the level of satisfaction for some people. And so that's why we're here to address that now. And I get what you're saying. And to my point, if the sheriff's department is unhappy with the performance of the vet, they can come to us and figure out a way to change out that vet or something. Or if the vet is coming in from out of county to do a service, and every time they're in there, they see something, and because they're not on site all the time, they don't have any real recourse to do anything. They can report to somebody else. That's where I think the missing link is. It's all about relationship between two people, and there is no trigger to, there's no recourse for something. So that's why I like this committee, but I want there to be some kind of oversight for it to help that relationship. And I can't come up with it either. That's why I'm asking
well, the
you
sheriff's
guys.
department isn't gonna know the medical. They don't, not slamming. they don't know now.
Right,
You know, I'm not a vet either, you know, so they don't know what's wrong with this account, or, so if that vet isn't doing his job, then are they gonna know that? Are they gonna, you know what I'm saying? I mean, are they gonna know what's missing?
Right, and you know this more than anybody else. If a vet was running their own business, is there a, for lack of a better word, like a health department that comes in like a restaurant, reviews every month and puts a score on the board? Is there somebody that reviews those facilities?
No, I mean, you get inspected every 2 years.
Just every 2 years?
Right, and all that is to make sure that you know, you've logged all your drugs correctly and, you know, just walked through the kennels. I mean, they're not gonna go through individual records and see what, so there's nothing really the state's gonna hold you accountable for other than pay your premise permit fee. And
So you still worry about that vet not taking care of those animals, only taking care of their own animals?
yeah, I mean, again, that's, you know, if you've got a young vet coming in and, hey, I can build my practice and, you know, I can make this much money over here, but over here I got this, you know.
Even requiring a certain amount of hours that they have to log and sign off that they've done.
I mean, I would think the other option would be better to hire your own vet.
Okay.
And stop depending on other, you know, you need to be your own, and even like with spay neuter, I mean, the animal control's success should not depend on spay neuter. They need to figure out everything on their own and have your own vet, have your own, you know, take care of your own facility.
All right, Donna, you were next.
For starters, I would like to concur everything you're saying, because everything that as I'm following information and speaking, you need to have your own full-time veterinarian, because you open up a lot of things when you're trying to structure these quasi relationships, because especially, well, you have to have a contract, and a contract is legally binding, so regardless, if you were trying to do that anyway, and anyone in violation of contract, there's always consequences. So there should never be verbal contracts, because that can get you in an awful lot of trouble, especially when you're working with public money. So having a full-time veterinarian, and from what I'm speaking with PAWS, they have a full-time vet. They also expressed the difficulty in finding an assistant veterinarian. They've been trying to fill that spot too, because sometimes you need more than just one veterinarian, and an assistant veterinarian is probably also a good idea. I would also put that out there as well as a possibility. When you have someone that is part of your team, that is part of your team, the veterinarian. They have expectations. They are hired in accordance. They're going to have a lot more oversight, because we should have an infrastructure of an oversight of who's doing what routinely. Are these individuals doing their job? So that, to me, it will be one of the most important things too, as what I'm seeing in missing links, is a full-time veterinarian, even potentially an associate vet to consider, depending on the amount of intakes. And the amount of intakes in February, because I did visit animal control, and I said I was so glad I did. And Deputy Tedeschi, do I have his last name?
Tarlaki?
Tarlaki, yeah.
Lieutenant.
Wonderful, loved him. Yeah, so he expressed that this month alone, by the 9th, I went on the 9th, that there were 70 intakes and 13 euthanization. That to me is that's a lot of animals that are coming in. And so they probably need more by way of cages too. Some of the things that he pointed out to me, and if you want, I could table that and address that above and beyond the topic of just veterinarian. If it's something about maybe some needs to explore that were expressed, I can also address those if you'd like.
We can add them to the next agenda.
To next agenda? So yeah, that would be wonderful if we could talk about unmet needs that we're finding, but definitively, as exactly as Diane's saying, full-time veterinarian would be the ideal and probably the best way to go.
Okay. If there's no more, that's going to conclude the veterinarian part contract. One last thing I'll say about that is just, we heard a little bit about it in public comments. The unique situation we have with the sheriff's department running it with inmates doing some of the work there causes some uniqueness to the way that's run, and it may provide for an uncomfortable situation because of the way it's done. I hope that some of that can be looked at to soften the look of the approach from the public coming in, but with the veterinarian being there with inmates too, getting assistance from inmates, and how the veterinarian would access that, whatever policy changes, this kind of blends in a little bit everything, whatever policy changes are going to be needed for a vet to have access to the animals, they're going to have access to the inmates as well. And I know that's something that you guys keep, a hard check on with public interaction there. Perhaps that can be looked at the same time with however we make that veterinarian relationship with the interaction with the inmates and the animals and everything. We can make it safe for people to have a little bit more accessibility to the area as well, because it should go across the board. If inmates are dangerous to the public, then they're dangerous to the veterinarian too. If they're not, then they're not. If there's some little nuance there that I'm missing, maybe it's something that we can work on or that you can divulge. I know some things you can and some things you can't. But just give it some thought and see if you can get us some information on that, if you will. I'm going to move on to, right now, the current budget is on there, and I know Ms. Boyd wanted that item on there to address some things. I really don't have anything for that topic. Does anybody else have anything on that? Otherwise, I'm going to save it for next month.
Yeah, can we move that because there's some probably budget things, especially with regard to some of the needs I'm hearing, and what is the budget, what would we need, things of that nature will probably be best served.
You just want to defer it to next month?
Can we defer it, please? Yeah.
Everybody okay with that? Do we need to vote on this?
No.
Okay. All right, and then,
That contract's on the old business as well,
sorry.
with that contract. on
Yes,
old
keep on,
business.
yes.
Okay.
And the last, let's see, discussion on policy and procedures, we've kind of touched all over that tonight with different regards. If there's anything specific to policy and procedures that you want to finish with, present any concerns or questions that we can send back to the animal control that they can give us some answers on, that'd be the time.
Well, in the broad scope of policy and procedures, and maybe this might be an add-on, maybe a separate section, I would actually like to explore this notion of, I understand that there's an inmate population, I understand that there is supposed to be a cost savings with that, but I think we really need to examine that, and where is it that we can successfully and maybe use differently inmate population because of the very structure of shutting out the public, and if in the event that the inmates are unsafe to the public, then it's shutting out the public from a very important institution that needs to have public access to adopt and to take care of animals and to have this seamlessness. It could be maybe we can look and identify, is it structurally in the building that some things could be walled off? There's a $25,000 cost in gas. It costs money to go back and forth. That's if you did time and motion studies, you will probably find that it may be cost prohibitive to have inmates there. I would love to see if we can do a carve out and explore that to successfully maybe have an integration, or is this the right model to use and how do we use it?
I would like to echo that a little bit in this way, that I understand that using inmates for low-cost labor. I also understand that it can be therapeutic and educational benefit to inmates to work with these animals. I would like to hear how that's going, hear some case studies or what the inmates are getting out of this. But also, I'm hearing a lot from the public on why don't they allow volunteers to come down and walk dogs to give them more outside time and things like that. I don't want to take the inmates out of the equation. That they are valid and valuable in that regard, but if some time split can be done to where we can do both, I think you can get more dogs with outside time, with walking and things like that, if we utilize some volunteers along with the inmates. And I don't know what that looks like or how that gets split. You guys know the facility. If it's possible, please just let them know that that's been a heavy request from the public on why they don't allow volunteers, and maybe that's something we could work towards with the new structure, new policy, and making it more accessible to the public with the vet possibly, all thought of at the same time. So, yes, Diane.
Well, and again, with the trustees, and, you can't have the volunteers, you can't, that the animal control, it should be more of a community involvement, and you can't, because and even with your vet, you're gonna have controlled drugs there, so you've added another element. And, when Miss Kathy goes in and her adoption counselor is somebody in a prison uniform, I'm sorry. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it just, when 60% of your animals are owner surrendered, I think it's important to do quality adoptions, and you don't have that personnel. You don't have when the inmate is showing you the animals, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I think adoption should be very strict, and because if not, you're recycling pets and they just keep coming back. So, I just think the trustees, like she said, if you could put them somewhere in the back where they don't have access, but I don't know how you do that.
I would think they could do anything but that.
Structurally?
But
Anything except for interact with the public on an adoption thing, because that would be kind of intimidating to some people.
well, that was her adoption counselor today.
I realize that. And maybe something weird happened, and this is a unique situation, but I would like that looked at to see if there's other people there that could probably do that part, and maybe that's something that's an easy fix.
But I mean, when 50% of your, there's 70 kennels, 20 are in the adoption, about 50 in the back. In the back, they do not give people access to go to the intake area. So those animals that don't get in the front 20 kennels, they're never seen. So that whole shelter should be open for the public to come through. But again, if you've got inmates back there, I mean, I used them when I first opened, and it was like herding cats.
So, Lieutenant Matthews, is there a way you can ask that question to learn a little bit more about why the public can't go back there, and if possible?
Well, I've got the answer for you right now.
About the inmates? And
About the inmates and why the public doesn't go back to where the intake is.
If possible, if there's certain times of day that the public can, that the inmates aren't there, that we can possibly make adjustments.
You used to let people know.
That's because I walked with them.
All right.
Basically, the main reasons why that the public is not allowed back to the intake is because that intake area also has animals that are quarantined, vicious dogs, vicious animals, and we're not allowing the public into those areas where you may have a little child or even say, oh, what a pretty dog, and they put their hand up to the, and they get bit. And then when they get bit, now the county can be held liable.
Is it possible that there's other animals that aren't vicious or quarantined in that area also just because of the sheer size of how many animals are there? It's
Well-
just the mixture of the two.
Yes, Mr.
and the
Chairman.
good ones can't be seen.
Well, no, what we do, if someone's interested in a particular breed of something that we have, we can bring those animals to a location where they can be viewed. We can't take them over to the adoption side because like there's some cross-contamination, because diseases and things they can spread. If you take an animal that hasn't been vaccinated or whatever and you mix the two, then that's, as you well know, how the disease and things like that spread. But there is an office area up in intake that if someone was interested in a particular breed or an animal that we may have back there, then at that point we could bring it up there. We do have a booklet with pictures of every animal in the shelter that is available for viewing.
Stays current.
Yes. We have an updated picture of every animal, and like I said, they can come in there and request the book. They can see the ones on the adoptions. They can request the book, and it's got a photograph and information on every animal we have
And the ones in the back.
in intake. Yes, sir. That is available, has always been available, but we just don't let, like I said, the general public back. The rescues, and like I said, she mentioned that when I was over there, I did from time to time. If I went back there with them, because I was going to be assured that was going to happen. But like I said, you have a lot of stuff that goes on, a lot of calls and answers, and again, you go back to personnel and having proper personnel there in order to do what is needed to be done.
What I'd like to see in regard to that is a policy put in place where that was nice of you to be able to do that when you were there, but does the public know to even ask, or is there an officer that is there at any given time to walk somebody back to the back? Or if that's kind of up in there, random, depending on who's there, some do it, some don't, could we make a set policy on that to walk somebody back, because that was nice.
Yes, we should. Yeah, like, I've done that with the reception. Like I said, the sheriff probably wouldn't have liked that at the time, because again, you got to watch about liability things that are happening. But like I said, we can do things. And again, if we have the personnel and things to do them, it's just like if I may, Mr. Chairman, just a little bit of leeway. The sheriff's office would love to have a full-time vet. The sheriff's office would love to have 2 vet techs on staff. The sheriff's office would love to have the floors redone. The sheriff's office would like a lot of these things to be done. Why aren't they being done? It goes back to funding. It goes back to the county commission. And I will say this, because I was part of the county commission back when all this was taking place also. I served 2 terms, is they don't want to spend any more money than they just got to do it. Bottom line, they cut the facility, they cut stuff out of the facility that was in the facility to start with that would have helped the animals and helped some of this stuff. Because
Who
this
did that?
the prior county commission, 2010 to 2016, and I won't go into naming names because bless their souls, some of them's not even here anymore. But as far as in this world, but that's the #1 battle. You're talking about just real quick, the trustees. They are not prisoners. They are prisoners, inmates, but they have to have a certain standard in order to be classified a trustee. Those are the ones that are allowed to come out to animal control to assist. Why do they do that? Yes, it can be therapeutic for them. They do take pride and stuff and give them something function, gets them out of the jail, okay, and gets them in a working environment. Yes, all that's good. But the #1 reason why is cost. And you want a budget, hire me 10 people, because we've got any from 10 to 12 that come in there at 8 o'clock in the morning and they work to 4:30 in the afternoon to clean that facility. We've got a 10,000 square foot facility, and like I said, I had as many as 135 cats in the facility, plus 100-something dogs at one time. That's a lot of urination and stuff, and feeding and cleaning and stuff to do, and those people stay busy time in and time out. If the county commission wants to do the funding for us and wants to hire outside help, fine, we'll do that, we'll put the trustees back, we can do that, as long as we got funding, and then we gotta get the people to come into work.
But it's
And
all-
then at that time, you can do your volunteer program. But you can't mix the two, or you can't, it would be difficult, I won't say can't, it would be difficult to try to mix the two together, volunteers and inmates, because inmates, they are in there. They're in there for a reason. And they will take liberties if the opportunity presents itself. And that's just the nature of the situation. But that tells you a little bit about the inmates. The reason why we basically have them is therapeutic, yes, for the inmates, but it's mainly cost factor.
All right, I want
Mr. Chairman.
to draw this down to a close, but I'm gonna give you guys, I know you had your hands up, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to say something, but please address it to the chair.
Okay.
And if needed,
I've got first.
You
Go.
go first, 'cause you.
both of you had your hands
I'll
up,
let you
but
go
I don't know
first.
who was first.
Well, again, with the trustees, I think I think it is such a liability, and I've used them before. Like I said, they've come to my shelter before, higher than a kite from jail. Oh, some of them have run off, not from me, not from me.
Tell them what happened. Go ahead, tell us.
I mean, and I know of one trustee that decapitated 2 cats with a catch pole, and that was during the Baber.
Oh, thank you.
thing. Yeah. So yeah, no, that was so they do cause the problem is nobody watched. Yeah, that was not any time during the jail. It was like 15 years ago, but they do cause a lot of problems, and you can't watch them. I mean, you just can't constantly watch them, and it does it does cause a lot of problems. And I just think it'd be better served to just hire some kennel techs just to work back there. They'll know the animals, but when you constantly have different trustees that come in, they come in and they're looking for how can I meet up with somebody? Can I get drugs? Can I get I just don't think it's a good environment. And
I understand, we've recognized another challenge here. He's said it's either all or none, you can't do
Right.
partial trustees and partial public, so we gotta figure out a solution to get rid of all the trustees and bring in all public, and so that's another challenge we can look at.
Right.
Go ahead, Ms. Dawn.
A couple of little things. If we're having to show, right, and me, I'm always looking at the data, because there, like you said, there's liability, there's going from and to, there's scheduling, and going to the shelter, and the dogs are barking. I feel bad for everybody, because the dogs may not be getting walked, because again, you have to oversee these individuals. They could probably only go at different times, or maybe other things and needs. We'll talk about that. We'll table that based on me going and seeing some needs. And what I would love to see, if possible, if you can outline whatever the needs were, because these, I loved going there, because Rebecca had also Rover Day Out, wanting to do it the community. Also a rover with, you can have night adoptions, having an animal overnight, all these wonderful things. You have individuals internally that are bringing forth ideas, and they've got great ones because they're on the front line, and I don't want them dying on the vine either. If you could possibly set up what they would like to see, because I already was, I know I couldn't do that another time, and share with you, Mr. Chairman, of some of the information I was already getting, and some things weren't very expensive either, that would go a long way. So it would love to hear your internal people saying, this is what we would like as ideas too.
So we'll know more about
What
that.
inmates
We'll know more about that when we get the best practices and procedures done, because as they find out, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. Once they find out what they're lacking, then I hope the animal control can come to us with what the suggestions were to them on where their shortcomings are, and then we could address those things and go after the needs and then possibly the wants.
And when it comes to budgets, you always have to have evidence of budgeting. So I'm just making that up. It's $25,000 for the gas, time and motion studies. These trustees cost an awful lot of money versus the cost of the ones that you were saying that you can hire. And you might say, look, this is a better budgetarily, because I like to see the costs of using the trustees and what you find are savings. And we may find that there's not really a saving when you calculate liability. Now you open up this other arena of volunteers that are actually free, community involvement, all the programs that are stymied at the moment because of so much risk involved. So can we do that too, just from a budgetary standpoint as well?
Sure.
I think we should.
Okay, we've got one more item on the agenda somebody would like to address.
Motion to adjourn, is that what it is?
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.